Yay, I'm live. Hi, it's Robert Redfern on our Thursday get-together. I had to think about what to talk about tonight because I've done COVID-19 so much the last few weeks, and there's so many things happening and it's going backwards and forwards. 1 minute they're going to open up the world and then they're going to close it again. There was some old friends of ours. I was speaking to them this morning, not spoken to them for a long time, and they were telling me that that they'd had COVID-19 themselves, coronavirus anyway. You know what I mean? In February, this is before it really became known, and they both of them were pretty ill with it. And I was quite surprised, but then I remembered that both of them had some serious problems. My friend had his heart problems, and his wife had some surgery as well not that long ago, and we know that surgery always leaves you a little bit weaker than you were before. And it got me thinking really that COVID-19 is just another infection. I mean, I'm not saying that it's not serious with people who are at risk, and that's a fact of life, but it really is an infection. And we talk about it as though that's the only infection in town, and it's, you know, if you avoid COVID-19, then everything is fine, but it's not true. It's not true because infections are really part of all conditions, whether it's heart disease or I'm just going to go through it now. So the fact is we all need immunity, and we need immunity from infection in our body, and this is some of the reasons why. Now, I'm not talking just about COVID-19, as I say, and I'm not even talking about Julian Assange. Julian Assange, if you don't know, is languishing in a British maximum security jail because he published some true information, and you're not supposed to publish true information. You know, if it was Chinese that had him in a jail, or the Russians, can you imagine the controversy? But no, he's in a British jail, and so it must be okay that they've got him in solitary confinement and torture. It's torture anyway. But most health problems are the result of weak or compromised immune system, and I can't really write about anything else at the moment, so I'm spreading or extending the immunity crisis a little bit further than just COVID-19. It really is, if you've read my books, I hope somebody's read one of my books, there's 30 of them. It's my favourite topic, in the immune system, because it's the core of health problems. What sort of health problems? Well, obviously coronavirus and all the viruses that you know about, but there's a condition that kills more women in the Western world than any COVID-19 or any flu whatsoever. And this condition, you know, women should be afraid of it. And I've just been stood looking out my window and looking across the road, and somebody's family's visiting them, and they're sat in the car talking from the car, and the person is stood at the doorway, which is some 30 feet, 9 meters away, and they won't go near each other. This is family members because they're afraid. But I bet they're not afraid of the thing that kills more women than any other condition, and it's worse than COVID. It's absolutely terrible. It's a horrible disease. Anyway, that's what women should be afraid of. But what is it? Well, it's brain disease, Alzheimer's. Some people call it dementia because it can be slightly different. And some women have Parkinson's. But more women die of these brain conditions, certainly in the UK, and I'm sure the rest of the Western world is catching up, than any other disease, even heart disease, cancer, whatever. So those people wouldn't be standing 9 meters apart if they were thinking that there's a disease much more terrible. Now, why is Alzheimer's more terrible? You know, you still die. It's worse because people end up in a nursing home. Their family don't know them. Sorry, they don't know their family. The family come to see them and they just don't know them at all. And so they're talking to a stranger, and quite often they'll say, "Get out of here, who are you? I don't want to know you." And they'll call for help. Help, these people are talking to me, I don't want to talk to them. And that's how bad it can be. And of course, then they die fairly soon after they go to a nursing home, because it's a bit of a downhill. But just a concept of a nursing home anyway, it's worse than the lockdown that people suffer from this. So that's now, why is Alzheimer's an infection? Because the infection, probably fungus, according to the study that I read from Spanish pathologists, but it's probably fungus on the brain, because fungus is an infection in the body. We don't really have to go into the detail of the type of infection, and infects the brain, and the brain slowly becomes destroyed, and they lose their memories, certainly the short-term memories, but then finding the long-term memories, and finding the body packs up, because if the brain's dysfunctional. So that's why it's an infection. So the next one I want to cover is heart and cardiovascular diseases. There's all sorts of things: blockages, damaged heart valves, heart failure, strokes. They're all directly or indirectly affected by an infection. And it could be that it's just an infection. Even the diseased heart valve is just an infection that took place. And once the degeneration starts, because the heart valves are working so hard, then it can degenerate even more. It's a common fact that people get an infection in through their gum disease, goes to the heart, and that actually kills them. So infection is connected with all of the heart disease, blocked arteries, and weak hearts. The one where people don't have a problem understanding is the immune dysfunction problems they call them autoimmune disease, but I don't actually like that term, because it's not an auto. I don't know what they mean by auto. Automatic, or what does it mean? The medical doctors will say, "Oh, it's your immune system attacking your body." No. Our body's not stupid. You know what I mean? Our body's well designed by our creator. And, we don't attack. What the immune system is doing is attacking infection in the body. And it can't deal with it. It can't deal with it primarily because we are eating too much sugar and carbs, which actually makes our immune system dysfunctional. And if your immune system is dysfunctional, how can it deal with infection, especially when those same sugar and carbs feed the infection? And the type of problems I'm talking about is multiple sclerosis, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, ME, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, psoriatic arthritis, juvenile arthritis. There's so many, Hashimoto's. They're all immune dysfunctions in the body, where the body is attacking an infection, but it's not strong enough to actually defeat it. So it's an ongoing battle, day after day, week after week. And only by getting ourselves super healthy, getting our immune system super healthy, will we deal with it. On this list, and most conditions are actually, but these are the main conditions that people are dying from. Lung disease, and that includes bronchial asthma, bronchiectasis, bronchitis, chronic coughs, COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders, cystic fibrosis. That's a genetic problem, but the death is caused by infection. Emphysema, pneumoconiosis, that's asbestosis into the lungs. Again, asbestos damages the lungs, but it's infection that kills people. There's all pulmonary fibrosis, pulmonary tuberculosis. Interesting that Fibrosis, they claim, is the cause of death for most people with COVID-19 because the infection literally damages the lining of the lungs and causes fibrosis there. So the list is endless, it really is, and there's so many things, but that's the cause of most diseases. So coronavirus is just one of the things that we can die from. I know people are saying there's thousands of people dying from coronavirus. I don't believe it. I listen to the doctors who don't believe it. They explain it very carefully, whereas the other doctors just say, shut up. We're telling you people are dying from coronavirus, and they're not. They're dying because they've got a condition, a pre-existing condition. They're at the edge, and having the coronavirus attack them is just the thing that tips them over the edge. And healthy people don't die from coronavirus. And if anybody tells me they do, I would want a post-mortem before I would believe it, and a post-mortem from an honest pathologist, because even they're not in the majority as people that follow deaths from certain people. In the UK, we had a Dr. David Riley who testified that there was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, but that's not what the authorities wanted to hear. So 2 days later, he was dead with a supposed suicide. But of course, you would expect a post-mortem for that, wouldn't you? To make sure the cause of death was known. No, just had a bit of a sham investigation, and then that's it. So I don't believe that anybody dies from coronavirus that is healthy. And I have no fear of it. And, because I take my vitamin D3 and other things every day. So really, this is about how do you get a super immunity from disease, not just from coronavirus, from any disease. And this is all in my books. You don't have to listen to this. You can switch off now, but I like going through it. So inflammation is part of all infections, and there's the two parts to inflammation. It might already be there. So when you get an infection, then the infection brings some more inflammation on top of the inflammation you already had. That starts to build up, and the greater the inflammation, and if it becomes chronic as opposed to acute, then you're going to have a hard time shifting, and you have to really get down to it. So you have to deal with inflammation in the body. It's very, very important, actually. As I said, this acute inflammation where it just comes because you just say, I got an infection now, and I would get acute inflammation. Take some serapeptase, 2 million IUs of serapeptase, and it will probably clear that away because it's just acute. And then there's chronic inflammation that takes a lot more shifting. You have to do a lot more things to it. The second thing to clear inflammation is drink water. Now, I'm not making any humour out of this because, but it really does douse the flames of inflammation. And you need to drink the water. You need to, drink 16 ounce or 500 ml glass of water with 1/4 to 1/3 of teaspoon of sodium bicarbonate. Now, why sodium bicarbonate, or baking soda if you want the expression? And any will do. Don't listen to this. Ours is aluminium free and all the rest of it. They all come from the same source. The baking soda, because when the body is inflamed, it becomes very acid, and you need to, it's also our poor diet, our acid diet, but you need to alkalize the body. So in your drinking water that are going to douse the flames of inflammation around the body, you need baking soda that will alkalize, and especially when it gets to the organs as well, particularly the kidneys. It really alkalizes it very fast and lets them function properly, so that your body can start to fight the inflammation and the infection that comes in. You've probably heard me say it before, but I call that the penny cure, because if you couldn't afford anything I'm talking about, and all you could do was afford a relatively healthy diet, baking soda is actually baking soda and rock salt. Those are the two things that will save your life. That's the penny cure, because it costs about a penny a day if you buy a sack of baking soda and rock salt. Rock salt's a rough, dirty looking salt, and the reason it's dirty looking is because all the nutrients are still there. They haven't washed them out to make them nice and white and bright, so it looks good. It might look good, but it's not doing you good. Breathing, I know it sounds obvious, but breathing is another way we can get rid of inflammation. Oxygen is the prime tool of the immune system. When you have an infection or toxins in your body, the immune system sends along cells to attack the toxins or the infection. And what it does, it uses oxygen and water to create hydrogen peroxide. So it engulfs the toxin or the infection with the hydrogen peroxide, and that obviously kills it instantly, oxidizes it. Your body then, using an enzyme called catalase, changes that immediately back to, because you don't want too much hydrogen peroxide in your body working, and the catalase immediately reverses that back into oxygen and water. And so you have to have oxygen. You might think, well, I breathe fine. Very few people do. I've done seminar after seminar, and I've asked everybody to take a deep breath, and everybody breathes like that. I say, no, a deep breath is down your diaphragm. And you get more oxygen in, and you get more carbon dioxide out. So you have to do some diaphragmatic breathing and practice. Now, when you breathe out, your tummy should come back underneath your rib cage, and that's the hard part, because people sit too much and don't walk too much. The tummy muscles are getting really flabby, and you can't breathe out properly. You can't get rid of the carbon dioxide, and if you can't get rid of carbon dioxide, you can't get more oxygen in. So, in my books, you'll see some exercises for all that. On tonight's newsletter, which goes out, I've got some steps for breathing there, but that's as well. Now, number 6 is sitting down. Sitting down is just a step towards premature death, because sitting down is one of the unhealthiest things. I mean, I've seen headlines saying sitting down is a new smoking and stuff like that. It is really, because the statistics are quite clear. If you sit down for 8 hours or more, and think of an office worker sitting there for 8 hours, and then they go home and sit down. They might sit down for an hour on the train or the bus going to, or in their car, whatever. A person that sits down for 8 hours or more compared to a person that sits down for less than 3 hours has got a 40% greater risk of dying younger. 40% greater risk. That's just huge. Why? Because of two things. The circulation is really bad when you sat there. You can't breathe properly from the diaphragm, and therefore you're not getting enough oxygen. So circulation and oxygen deficit from a person who sits down for 8 hours or more puts them at much greater risk of dying prematurely. If you don't get the oxygen in, you don't get the infection dealt with as it should do. We have toxins and infections getting in our body all the time that you just breathe them in. Why does one person have a problem and another person not? The difference is this lifestyle I'm talking about. Number 7 is walking fast. I see people strolling along and, slouching or whatever. We were made to walk. We were made to walk fast. The only time we ever ran was when we're being chased by a tiger or whatever, but or we were chasing something. But generally, we could never really catch animals by running after them because most of them can run much faster. So we were made to walk fast. We would go everywhere. We would trap them, and the walking has to be done purposefully, standing tall, pubic bone forward, because I see people walking along like this. I think, crikey, you know, the wonderful thing that gives you much more oxygen into your body, and you're losing it, you know, and it's bad by sitting down. You're losing it because you're crouching forward and walking as though it's your last steps, actually. Stand tall. Stand really tall, get your pubic bone as far forward as possible. And I don't care how difficult it is to begin with, because your back muscles will go stronger as time goes on, because that's why people lean forward. It's because their back muscles, they've been sitting down too much. They've lost muscles in their back, they're losing muscles in their tummy, and they are, if you like, heading for a fall. So that's walking. Now, I don't know whether you know what Nordic poles are. Those are those poles you see people walking along that look like two walking sticks, but they're not. They enable you to walk much more upright and much faster and much longer. You know, people that use Nordic poles might walk 5 miles just for a quick walk. That's how good they are. They really are superb. And also they stop your arms from going down too low, because when your arms are down there, you've got poor circulation in your arms, whereas when your arms are up here, you've got much better circulation, and you're getting much better exercise for your upper body, because upper body strength is another thing as we get older that we need. So that's walking. These are all simple. They don't cost any money. They just require you to really get in on the act, actually, of a healthy lifestyle and be the person that connect. Right, we got cut off then, that your creator intended. And I've got Patricia Ratliff watching. Hiya, Pat. Pat's an old friend of mine. She lives in Arizona now with her husband Larry, and they've been a great help for me in the USA. And you know, they are, well, they're special to me anyway. Anyway, so sleep's essential. And I know when people say, well, when I get older, it's more difficult to sleep. That's because you've not been walking enough in the daytime. That's because you've not been active enough in the daytime. That's because you've already been sitting down and you're getting too much rest, if you like. And we need it keeps going off, actually, guys. Sorry about that. We need the rest at nighttime when we're in bed. But there are a couple of things you can do anyway. If you can't get to sleep easily, then it's melatonin you need, and maybe a quick shot of GABA, because GABA is a relaxant, and it really sort of takes you down very quickly. So that's what you need. If it's that you're waking up after 2 hours and thinking, dwelling on things, whatever, worrying about coronavirus, worrying about the state of the country, losing your job, whatever, that's helped by taking GABA again. You know, you can get GABA in a spray, and GABA, that's GABA. And it really is good for just relaxing you down. And you can actually add a drop of CBD oil to that as well, because keep it in your mouth, keep both of them in your mouth as long as possible, because that will absorb quickly, and within minutes it'll be in the brain and working by doing that. Don't just swallow things that you want to take. Anything liposomal is good to do that. So that's sleep anyway. Food is inflammatory, and if you it's also acidic as well. So grains and cereals and sugar drinks, they're all acidic, they're all inflammatory. So if you want to avoid if you want to avoid infection, as I've already said, you've got to avoid inflammation, then you've got to get the food right. And real food is vegetables, salads, dark skinned fruits, the berries, type thing. Avocados. Okay, bananas are okay in strict moderation, especially when it's not too far gone. Once they start going brown, that's sugar that you can see there. So you're eating sugar then. But grapefruits are good, especially the pink grapefruit. You know that you might think because it tastes so good that they're got a lot of sugar. They have some sugar, of course, but not a lot. You know, comparatively. Nuts, seeds, pulses, and wild-caught fish. I say wild-caught fish, I have to do because the fish that are farmed are absolutely disgustingly unhealthy, and they may even come from places like Thailand and other places where they rear them in pretty bad conditions. So just going to recap that. So it's fresh vegetables or frozen. If that's all you can get, frozen is better than canned. So fresh vegetables or frozen vegetables, salads, dark-skinned fruits, nuts, seeds, pulses, wild-caught fish. Now, everything I've just said there, except for the wild-caught fish, my hero, who's 107 and he used to be the world record holder for the 26-mile marathon, but he retired when he was 100. And now at 104, he's only doing half marathons of 13-mile runs for charity. So that's all he eats: vegetables, dark-skinned fruits, nuts, seeds, and pulses. That's beans to you and me, you know, different types of beans. And so anybody tell you need meat or fish to run marathons, you know, have a word with Mr. Singh anyway. So to be safe, though, you need proper levels of vitamin D3, and you can get, obviously, in fish oil, vitamin D3, but not as much as you would think. And you need about 20,000 IUs a day if it's every day, as certainly in the wintertime. Now, just because you live in the desert, like my friend Patricia Ratliff, it doesn't mean to say you're going to get the sunshine, because if you're going around covered up and just your face showing and your hands, you're not getting enough skin exposed. And people of dark skin from Africa or from Asia, they can't absorb the sunlight the same as the Caucasians, and that's a fact. So they need to get more skin exposed, or they need to supplement. So generally in the winter, it's always 20,000 a day of vitamin D3. But of course, the government will tell you to take 400 IUs, not 20,000 IUs. You're going to believe one of us. Who looks the healthiest? Okay. Next is stopping pharma drugs. Now, you can't just stop them without a plan. But if you have a plan, if you have one of my books to make a plan, or you have help from us, then there's my little dog barking in the background, actually, Rafa. If you have a plan to get healthy, then healthy people don't need pharma drugs. But pharma drugs can cause inflammation and cause premature death. It's not a secret. You know, everybody knows that. More people die from pharma drugs than COVID-19. That's not me saying that. You know, you can just check the stats. More people die from taking pharma drugs than die from COVID-19. You would think the way the media is terrorizing people about COVID-19, that lots of people are dying compared to everything else. It's not true. It's a minor number of people dying. You've got to trust me on that. This is the most difficult one to say, that, believe it or not, a happy sex life for as long as possible is quite an essential part of a healthy immune system. Again, I go by science, and studies show that people that have a healthy sex life as long as possible are always healthier generally than people that don't. So that's my parting shot for the evening, folks. And the last word is this. All these words are actually in newsletter that goes out this evening, or later if you're in the USA, in about you'll get it in about 7 or 8 hours. And I always say, if you want a long, healthy life, you have to live a long, healthy life. Okay, wait a minute. Let me just say it just in case. If you want a long, healthy life, you have to live a long, healthy life. You can't do something healthy for 4 weeks and start to feel better and then, oh, that's it now. I'm okay. You have to live that life forever. That's not to say you won't have some birthday cake on your birthday, or at a family party you won't have a pizza or whatever. I'm just making the worst things up I can think of. But generally, 330 days of the year, you have to live a long, healthy life. 35 days of the year, okay, you can go off the rails if you want to. You don't have to do it. It's not obligatory. But the sooner you start, the sooner it will all start to come true. So that's it for tonight, folks. And I hope I've been able to inspire you to not just think of COVID-19, but think of all the diseases that can cause problems. You can see this on Facebook. It'll still be here forever. And it also gets posted on, I think it gets posted to YouTube. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's here. All right. Take care, folks. Have fun. Bye.